So, what do you understand by urinary tract obstruction, Bipu Bhatta?
Urinary tract obstruction is a blockage that may inhibit the flow of urine through the normal pathway.
Srijan Gautam, what is urinary tract?
Urinary tract, it is the path followed by urine from kidney to urinary bladder.
Bladder. So, can you tell me the path?
First of all, urine it is collected in collecting duct, and then through this minor and major calyxes, it is
Where?
to pelvis, renal pelvis, and from renal pelvis, the duct that is ureter, it brings the urine down to urinary bladder, and from urinary bladder, it is excreted through urethra.
So, urinary tract is a tract that maintains the flow of urine. Okay, urine is ultrafiltration of plasma in kidney. Okay, there is role of glomerulus, there is role of tubule, there is glomerular filtration. You must have read in physiology. The renal system is finished in physiology, isn't it? So you must know how urine is formed. Now the tract constitute kidney itself, especially the renal pelvis, then to ureter, then to bladder. Two ureter joins the urinary bladder. Then the bladder is connected or it exits in the urethra. From urethra, urine flow occurs. All right. Now, what happens if there is urinary tract obstruction? Okay. Obstruction will cause chances of infection and stone formation. If by any means there is urinary tract obstruction, there will be infection, and the infection of urinary tract is known as urinary tract infection. In short, we call it UTI. UTI is divided into upper UTI and lower UTI, or urinary tract is divided into upper urinary tract and lower urinary tract. Now, if obstruction is not relieved, then what will happen? There will be permanent renal atrophy and chances of hydronephrosis, also known as obstructive uropathy. Hydronephrosis is defined as dilatation of renal pelvis and calyces associated with progressive atrophy of the kidney due to obstruction to the outflow of the urine. What are the renal parenchyma? And mainly the urinary tract is renal pelvis. So first, in hydronephrosis, because of urinary tract obstruction, there will be dilatation because there is backflow of urine and there is pressure over there. Urine is not able to flow in its normal direction from renal pelvis to ureter, bladder, and urethra. So wherever there is obstruction, above that the urine goes in backflow direction. So there is pressure in renal pelvis. So what will happen? Renal pelvis will be dilated, and the calyces which are joining the pelvis get atrophied, and ultimately the whole renal parenchyma can get atrophied. Now you can see the normal kidney and you can compare with the hydronephrotic kidney. The left side is normal kidney with normal calyces. Alright, very beautiful pyramidal calyces, and see the pelvis which is opening into each of the pyramids, each of the calyx. Okay, now you see there is blockage in the second picture. You see there is blockage in the ureter, in the proximal part of ureter. Because of a calculi, there is kidney stone in the renal pelvis at the ureteropelvic junction. So above that, there is dilated, there is distension of renal pelvis, and all these calyces. See the angle of calyces in first picture, which is sharp, and here it is blunted. All right, so the renal calyces become distended, entire kidney configuration changes, and there is atrophy of the calyces. Compare the calyces in first and second picture. Okay, the shape and the texture changes. Now, what is the pathophysiology? There is either anatomical or functional process of interruption of flow of urine. There can be rise in ureteral pressure causing stretching and dilatation whenever there is either anatomical interruption or functional. In functional, there is ureteric spasm, okay? There is atonic bladder, all these also cause urinary tract obstruction. Mostly it is structural. Structural means either there is stone or tumor or fibrosis or stricture like that. So there is, because of all these processes, there is rise in ureteral pressure, okay? And because of this ureteral pressure, what will happen? There is stretching and dilatation of the renal pelvis. It is stretched, the wall gets thinned out and it gets dilated because of the backflow. And if that is not relieved, if the pressure is not relieved, that will cause decline in the renal blood flow, so there will be reduced GFR. Okay, glomerular filtration rate will be reduced because of progressive lesion. If the obstruction is significant and persistent, then it goes affecting the above tissue like nephrogenic tissue, and there will be renal impairment like thinning of cortex, dilatation of pelvic calyceal system. First, it starts with dilatation of pelvis only. If persists and severe, then it will involve pelvic calyceal system, calyces. Then it goes more above and it causes thinning. The most outermost part of the kidney is cortex. This pinkish stone, you see the just below the capsule, this pinkish stone is cortex. So it also gets thinned out. Glomerular filtration initially will try to compensate, okay, but ultimately because of the persistent obstruction and there is high pressure in the pelvis, so there is renal atrophy, cortical atrophy, renal pelvic system dilatation. Renal vasculature will be compressed along with cortex, so there is diminished medullary blood flow. All these obstruction is causing diminished blood flow and there is ischemic atrophy. Means there is less blood supply, so there is atrophy. What else? There will be functional disturbance, medullary functional disturbance. So initial most functional alteration caused by obstruction is mainly tubular. So urine will not be concentrated. The function of tubule is to concentrate the urine. So there is impairment of concentration of urine. The concentrating ability will be reduced. Secondly, is affected GFR. First, there is tubular involvement. Second, there is GFR involvement. Apart from that, there is chances of infection, inflammation, and interstitial fibrosis. Now, what are the causes? The causes can be gradual causes or sudden causes. It can be partial obstruction or complete obstruction. And sometimes it can be unilateral, means one side of kidney or ureter, or it can be bilateral. And obstruction can occur anywhere, at any level of the urinary tract, starting from renal pelvis to urethra. Anywhere there can be obstruction, which may be partial or complete, sudden or insidious, that is gradual, unilateral or bilateral. And lesions can be intrinsic to kidney, urinary tract, means the lesion is within the urinary tract, or sometimes it is outside the urinary tract and is compressing and causing the pressure symptoms. Now, what are the intrinsic causes? Starting from different organs, okay, starting from renal pelvis and ureter, then bladder, then urethra. What are different causes of obstruction? We must know. There are list of causes and it is important. Okay. So first, there can be congenital stricture at the ureteropelvic junction. There can be papillary necrosis which causes ischemic damage, followed by fibrosis, and there is obstruction. It can be iatrogenic. Some renal procedure was done, like lithotripsy is done to break the stones, the renal calculi, and because of the surgical procedure, there is atrophy. Sometimes a blood clot is lost. All right, the blood clot is lost, and that is causing pressure. What else? Ureteral tumor. Within the ureter, there can be tumor, and that tumor can cause obstruction. Now, what is extrinsic? Intrinsic means within the ureter. Okay, the intrinsic cause is within that organ. Extrinsic means it is being pressured from outside. So malignancy or tumor or neoplasm of retroperitoneum, because ureter is a retroperitoneal structure anatomically. And what are the other proximal organs like aorta? So there can be aortic aneurysm, inferior vena cava, there can be retrocaval ureter. The position of ureter sometimes goes retrocaval instead of just retroperitoneum. Then some bowel disease like inflammatory bowel disease, retroperitoneal hemorrhage, lymphocyl. So there are a lot of pathology that can cause pressure. Now, what you can remember is according to anatomic location, you can extrinsically you can say there can be tumors or the kidney itself is retrocaval, the position of kidney, and mostly the tumors or neoplasms that can compress is easy to remember. Now, there are some functional causes that can cause obstruction, and the functional causes include gram-negative infection and neurogenic bladder. Despite there is no anatomical obstruction, because of the autonomic nervous system involvement, the bladder becomes, there is aparesis of bladder. Bladder is non-contractile, and because of that there is atonia. We say atony. Neurogenic bladder means basically there is no control, no autonomic control over bladder. Okay, it is full, but patient don't feel like, person do not feel like micturition, and there is backflow that goes above. Now coming to bladder, after pelvis and ureter, coming to bladder, what are the intrinsic and extrinsic causes in bladder? Within the bladder wall or within the bladder space cavity, there can be calculi. In the wall, there can be contracture because the neck of the bladder is an inverted triangle, isn't it? You know the shape of bladder? At the neck, it is narrow structure. So if there is contracture, there can be backflow. And if there is calculi also, there can be backflow. All right? Functional vesico-ureteric reflux or neurogenic bladder. So in most of the functional causes, it is neurogenic effect. Now urethra. In urethra, the intrinsic cause is usually there is no stone in urethra. It passes soon if there is stone at all. Okay. So there is less likely that the calculi is causing urethral obstruction. So mostly it is stricture because of repeated UTI. And extrinsic cause is the neoplasm around it. So in male, there is prostatic organ, which is hyperplastic in aged people, and that is known as benign prostatic hyperplasia, also called as nodular hyperplasia of prostate. So it extrinsically can cause the urinary tract obstruction. Now in neonates, depending upon the age, there can be some other causes like ureteropelvic or ureterovesical obstruction congenitally, or the urethral valves. The urethral valves become posterior, so urination is not that smooth. Okay, Prune-Bailey syndrome, vesico-uretary reflux disease, ureterocele, all these can be congenital. So you can remember posterior urethral valve and Prune-Bailey syndrome. That is easy to remember. Okay, so this is one of the picture from one of the books for obstructive uropathy, and you can summarize like this. So basically, we expect you to remember outside extrinsic cause, within the wall, and inside. Okay, so outside there are usually tumors and adjacent organ pathology. If you don't remember anything or not able to correlate, you can also say adjacent organ neoplasm. And you can, if you have read in anatomy, you can easily say what are the organs that are around the kidney, ureter, or bladder. Okay, like flow, and there can be temporary hydronephrosis. Once the baby is delivered, okay, the hydronephrosis gradually reverse. But if it is persistent by any means, say there is uterine tumor, say leiomyoma or fibroid uterus, then it can cause long-term compression. All right. So the causes can be congenital or acquired. Congenital is usually seen in neonates like uretropelvic obstruction or posterior urethral valves or vesico-uretral reflux. All right. Neurogenic causes, if it is associated with spina bifida, posterior urethral valves in male, And intrinsic cause are usually stones. Stones are known as calculi or nephrolithiasis. Then stricture in the wall and tumors within the, say, ureter, renal pelvis, ureter, bladder, or urethra, or outside. Extrinsic causes are outside. Now, what will happen to kidney morphology? What will happen to kidney if the obstruction is sudden? GFR is reduced and it will lead to mild dilatation. Okay, GFR is, if the obstruction is sudden, there is mild dilatation of the pelvis and calyces, because dilatation and calyces, the pelvis and calyces cannot dilate in one day. So there will be mild, some stretching will be there, and some atrophy also of the renal parenchyma can occur. But if the obstruction is intermittent or subtotal, then usually GFR is not suppressed, because in first instant when there is subtotal obstruction, the GFR is little bit reduced and it compensates. There is compensatory mechanism. Then again there is obstruction that it will compensate and it gets used to of it. However, there can be progressive dilatation because of the intermittent obstruction. And depending upon the block, where the block is in the urinary tract, the dilation may affect the bladder, then followed by urinary kidney, means upward direction, just proximal to the site of obstruction. Say if there is obstruction is at urethra, there will be dilatation of bladder followed by ureter and kidney. If it is bladder obstruction, there will be ureter and then kidney dilatation or atrophy. Kidney parenchyma is solid organ, so there will be atrophy. Pelvic will be dilated. Okay. So make sure that you are hearing. Otherwise, I will keep on speaking and I will know that there is no connection. Then depending upon the degree and the duration of the obstruction, the kidney changes occurs. As I said, just at the site of obstruction, the organs affected, a portion of the urinary tract affected will be just above it, proximal to it, not distal to it. Suppose ureter is obstructed, so bladder will not be affected. Only proximal part of ureter, pelvis, and kidney will be affected. Okay, only proximal organs. There is no relation of distal organs. So depending upon where the obstruction is and what is the degree, whether it is total or subtotal, means partial or total obstruction, or duration, whether it is sudden and for short time or it is for long time. So simple dilatation of pelvis and calyces with some interstitial inflammation occurs in the initial phase. Okay, followed by, if it goes chronic, if there is long-term persistent obstruction, then only it first starts tubular atrophy, then compromised GFR will be altered, and there will be interstitial fibrosis. Interstitium gets infiltrated with inflammatory cells first, even though there is no infection. It is not necessary that we need infection. It is just inflammation, means only the internal inflammatory cells will be activated. Okay, then what will they do? They will cause blunting of the apex, calyceal apex of the renal pyramids, and the pyramids appear cupped. Now you see the next picture. Okay, you can note down only the bold letters. You can make your flow chart: sudden obstruction, mild dilatation, intermittent obstruction, progressive dilatation. All right. And then you can, in morphology, you can mention the bold and bigger letter, bigger fonts. Now you see the gradual, mild, moderate, severe, the progression of these changes in the urinary tract. Here the kidney is normal. In the proximal portion of ureter, there is some obstruction, there is stricture. The narrowing of the wall is known as, of the tubular organ is known as stricture. Now just proximal to it, what has happened? It may be of short time, so there is mild dilatation, but the calyces are okay. They are angulated, they are sharp, isn't it? Can you see the junction of pyramids and the calyces? Pelvic calyceal system.
Yes, ma'am.
There is angulation, sharp angulation, not much alteration. If the obstruction would be interrupted here, there will be no progression to moderate. Now it is already progressed to moderate, so there is blunting of the cups and the renal pyramids are getting atrophied. The area they occupy is reduced. They are getting atrophied. There is pressure, there is ischemia and atrophy. And if we see the histology section, there will be inflammation also, interstitial inflammation. You see the severe picture, entire renal pelvic system is ballooned, cupped, okay, blunted, and pyramid is almost lost, and even cortex is thinned out. So entire kidney gets involved, and there is remarkable renal dysfunction. So what will happen in very much advanced cases? The kidney become transformed into a thin walled cystic structure. All this pinkish space will be a cystically dilated thin walled space. Nothing will be there. No parenchyma, no solid structure. Only fluid contained by this dilated balloon structure. Okay, thin walled cystic structure. All right, and there will be remarkable parenchymal atrophy. There will be striking parenchymal atrophy. There will be total obliteration of the pyramids and thinning of the cortex. In parenchymal atrophy, you see the pyramid are almost obliterated or lost. Okay, and there is remarkable thinning of the cortex. So you compare the right side and left side when there is obstruction at the level of urinary bladder. Okay, if the bladder is obstructed, the outflow area is obstructed. See, there is obstruction at the trigone area in the left side of the bladder, the uretero-vesical junction. The bladder is referred as vesicle. So at uretero-vesical junction, there is calculi which has obstructed. So proximal to it, the ureter is dilated. That is known as hydroureter. Then again, it might have persisted. So above that, pelvic calyceal system is dilated, and it is known as hydronephrosis. You compare with right side, everything is normal. Compare the size, the pelvic calyceal system, the calyces, pyramids, and all. So basically, clinically, this obstructive uropathy is hydronephrosis. Okay, what are the symptoms? Depending upon the cause, if it is calculi, patient will present with a colicky pain. Okay, if it is tumors, there will be local tumor signs or systemic tumor signs. All right, then if the obstruction is acute, definitely there will be some pain and effect of distension, because renal capsule is sensitive to pain, and when pelvic calyceal system is getting stressed, the renal capsule will also get stressed and there will be pain. Okay, and depending on whether it is unilateral, complete or partial hydronephrosis, sometimes the cause are not obvious and it is silent for a long time, and patient doesn't know that so much changes are going in kidney. So by the time patient landed up in the hospital, the kidney is almost converted into a sac-like structure. The kidney is almost damaged. Okay, there is no adequate renal dysfunction. If the obstruction is bilateral, the earliest manifestation is there is no concentration of urine and it is deflected by polyuria and nocturia. Okay, concentration is affected, tubular function is affected, and sometimes there is distal tubular acidosis, renal salt wasting, secondary renal calculi, and this is the picture of actually chronic tubular interstitial nephritis. So urinary tract obstruction, bilateral urinary tract obstruction presents with the clinical picture of tubulointerstitial nephritis. All right, and structurally there will be scarring and atrophy of the papilla and medulla. And by the time these things occurs, tubulointerstitial nephritis patient may also present with the hypertension. Okay. In case of severe complete bilateral obstruction, there can be oliguria and anuria, and that is not compatible with life. So these are some of the hydronephrotic kidneys you can compare along with the chronic inflammation and damage to their morphology. So compare how ugly the left side of kidney is looking. There was bladder obstruction, there was bladder tumor, right, and there is proximal ureter dilatation along with the hydroureter and hydronephrosis. Okay, and in this X-ray, this is intravenous pyelogram. You see the right side of picture and left side. Calyces are so sharp in the left side. Okay, the bladder is clear. The trigone, the triangular structure bladder is maintained. There is obstruction somewhere in the right ureter, so kidney is converted into a bag of the sac. Okay, now grading it depends upon whether the renal parenchyma and renal complex are intact or not. Okay, so depending upon the central renal complex, that is pelvic calyceal system. Okay, so grade 0 it is intact, so it is very mild hydronephrosis just diagnosed. There is slight splitting of the renal complex, then there is grade 1 splitting is quite evident, grade 2 there is wide splitting, grade 3 and there is remarkable dilatation with thinning of the renal parenchyma, then grade 4. Once renal parenchyma is involved, it is grade 4. You see the severe one, renal cortex is almost getting lost. And you see the grading in this renal complex in the black and white above picture, depending upon the pelvic calyceal structure. So calyces, if they are maintained, then there is no problem. Once calyceals are blunted and cortex is also damaged, it's very severe. So more examples, more pictures. See, there is stone in the bladder. Proximal to that there is hydroureter, which has progressions to above structure. Okay. Now, posterior urethral valve congenital, and these patients also get hydronephrosis. This is prune belly syndrome. There is laxation of the anterior abdominal wall. Okay, prune belly syndrome. There is laxation of anterior abdominal wall, and patients with this have a tonic ureter and bladder, and there is functional hydronephrosis. See the size of the abdomen because of hydronephrosis. The kidney is swollen, the entire abdomen is swollen, and there is umbilical hernia as well. So this is the grading of this